Jake Morrison stood at the big window of the ship and looked down at the planet below. The world called Ethros was like nothing he had ever seen. Cities made of crystal grew from the ground like flowers, and they shined with their own light. Blue and silver colors danced across the surface, making patterns that hurt his eyes to look at for too long. He had been in space for 3 years now, but this was different. This was the first time humans would meet the Zephyrians face to face. They had talked through radio signals before, but now they would actually see each other. Jake touched the glass with his hand. His reflection looked back at him, a man in his early 30s with brown hair and tired eyes. He wore the blue uniform of the Earth Space Navy, with silver bars on his shoulders that showed he was a lieutenant commander. 3 years of traveling through space had changed him. He looked older now, more serious. The ship around him was called the UES Liberty. It was not built for war. It was made for talking, for meeting new people from other worlds. The walls were white and clean, with soft lights that did not hurt the eyes. Everything was designed to look friendly and peaceful. Captain Lisa Rodriguez walked up behind him. She was a small woman with dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Jake had known her since training school, and he trusted her more than anyone else in the fleet. "They will be here soon," she said, looking out at the planet. "Are you ready for this?" Jake nodded. As ready as anyone can be for something like this. He paused. "Do you think they will like us?" Lisa smiled a little. "They asked us to come here, Jake. That has to mean something." The Zephyrians had been watching Earth for a long time before they made contact. Their first message had been simple. They wanted to meet the humans who made such beautiful music and art. They said they had lost the ability to create such things, and wanted to learn how humans did it. A soft sound came from the speakers in the wall. "All diplomatic staff to Docking Bay 3. The Zephyrian ship is approaching." Jake straightened his uniform and followed Lisa through the clean white halls of the ship. Other crew members moved past them, all trying to look calm, but Jake could see the excitement in their eyes. This was history happening. Docking Bay 3 was a large room with a clear dome for a ceiling. Through it, Jake could see a ship unlike anything humans had ever built. It looked like it was made of liquid metal that flowed and changed shape as he watched. There were no hard edges, no visible engines, but it moved through space like a living thing. The ship touched the docking port so gently that Jake barely felt it. The lights in the bay dimmed, then brightened again in a pattern that seemed to welcome their visitors. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The first Zephyrian who stepped through made Jake forget how to breathe for a moment. She was tall and moved like she was dancing, even while walking. Her skin was pale blue, like ice in moonlight, and seemed to glow with its own soft light. Her hair was silver and moved around her face like it was underwater, never quite still. But it was her eyes that held Jake's attention. They were large and seemed to change color as he watched. First blue like deep ocean water, then green like spring leaves, then a warm gold color that made him think of sunset. She wore clothes that looked like they were made of the same flowing metal as her ship. They changed color and pattern as she moved, but always seemed perfect for each step she took. Behind her came other Zephyrians, all beautiful in the same strange way, but Jake could not look away from the first one. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "Welcome aboard the UES Liberty. I am Captain Lisa Rodriguez. We are honored to meet you." The Zephyrian woman bowed her head in a graceful motion. When she spoke, her voice was like music, with sounds that seemed to come from her whole body, not just her mouth. "I am Princess Lyra Veltar, daughter of High Regent Zane Veltar. I speak for my people in these talks." Her English was perfect, but had an accent that made every word sound like part of a song. "We thank you for coming so far to meet us." Jake found himself staring at her. He had expected aliens to be strange and frightening, but Princess Lyra was the most beautiful being he had ever seen. More than that, there was something in her eyes that seemed familiar, like looking at someone he had known his whole life. The princess looked around the docking bay. Then her gaze stopped on Jake. For a moment that felt like forever, they looked at each other. Her eyes changed to that warm gold color again, and Jake felt something move in his chest that he could not name. "You are the one called Jake Morrison," she said, and it was not a question. Jake managed to nod. "Yes, Your Highness. I am the Cultural Exchange Officer." She smiled, and Jake felt his heart skip. "I have read your reports on human art and music. They were most interesting. I hope we can discuss them during my stay." The formal meetings that followed were held in the main conference room. The Zephyrians sat on one side of a long table, humans on the other. Maps and charts covered the walls, showing trade routes and resource locations. But Jake found it hard to pay attention to talk of mining rights and shipping lanes. He kept looking at Princess Lyra, watching how she listened to everything with perfect attention, how she asked questions that showed she understood things better than most of the human experts. During a break in the talks, Jake was getting coffee when Princess Lyra approached him. This close, he could see that her skin really did glow with soft light, and he could smell something like flowers after rain. "Your people drink this heated liquid for pleasure?" she asked, looking at his coffee cup with curiosity. "Coffee helps. Use think and stay awake," Jake explained. "Would you like to try some?" She accepted the cup with both hands, which Jake noticed had 6 fingers instead of 5. She took a small sip, and her eyes went wide. The color changed rapidly from blue to green to gold. "This is most strange," she said. "It is bitter but also pleasing, and it makes my mind feel more active." Jake laughed. "That is exactly what coffee does. Would you like me to show you other human foods?" Princess Lyra nodded eagerly. "I wish to learn everything about humans. Your people create such wonderful things. We have forgotten how to make anything new." That evening, Jake arranged a small dinner in one of the ship's dining rooms. He had asked the cooks to prepare simple human foods: bread, cheese, fruit, and roasted meat. He also brought his music player and some books of poetry. Princess Lyra tried each food carefully, asking questions about how it was made and why humans enjoyed it. When Jake played music for her, she sat very still, her eyes closed and changing colors rapidly. "This makes me feel things I do not understand," she said when the song ended. "It is like the music creates emotions inside me that I did not know existed." Jake played more songs, happy ones that made her eyes turn bright gold, sad ones that made them deep blue. When he read poetry to her, she listened like every word was the most important thing she had ever heard. "What is love?" she asked suddenly. Jake stopped reading. "Love is ... It is hard to explain. It is when you care about someone more than yourself, when their happiness matters more than your own." Princess Lyra was quiet for a long time. "We do not have this thing among my people. We mate by genetic matching, not by choice. But your poets write of it as the most important thing in existence. For humans it often is," Jake said softly. She looked at him with those changing eyes. "I think I would like to understand this love," she said. "Will you teach me?" The weeks that followed changed everything for Jake Morrison. Every day brought new meetings with Princess Lyra, and every meeting made him understand how different their peoples truly were. Princess Lyra learned quickly. She asked questions about everything: why humans laughed, why they cried, why they chose to stay together even when logic said they should separate. Jake found himself explaining things he had never thought about before. "Your people paint pictures of things that do not exist," she said one morning as they walked through the ship's art gallery. She stopped in front of a painting of a dragon. "Why do you create images of creatures that are not real?" Jake looked at the painting. The dragon was green and gold, with wings spread wide and fire coming from its mouth. Because it makes us feel something. Fear, wonder, excitement. We like to imagine things that could be, even if they never were. Princess Lyra reached out as if to touch the painting, then stopped. My people only create images of real things. We record what we see, but we do not imagine what could be. Her eyes turned a sad blue color. I think we have lost something important. Captain Rodriguez was not happy about how much time Jake spent with the princess. She called him to her office on a Tuesday morning when the diplomatic talks were going slowly. Jake, I need to know where your head is, she said, sitting behind her desk with her arms crossed. The Zephyrians are offering us technology that could change everything for Earth, but you seem more interested in playing teacher to their princess. Jake sat up straight. Captain, she is learning about our culture. That is part of the mission. Is it? Rodriguez leaned forward. Or are you getting too close to someone who is not human? Remember what happened to the last diplomat who fell in love with an alien. Jake knew the story. Commander Peter Gray had fallen in love with a Centauri female 20 years ago. When the relationship ended badly, it had caused a war that killed thousands of people. This is different, Jake said. That is what Gray said too. Rodriguez stood up. I am not ordering you to stay away from her. But be careful, Jake. The fate of two worlds might depend on these talks. That afternoon, Jake and Princess Lyra were scheduled to visit the moon of Ethros. The Zephyrians had found ruins there from an ancient civilization, and they wanted to show them to the humans as a sign of trust. They took a small shuttle down to the moon's surface. The ruins were made of black stone that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols covered the walls, and rooms led deeper into the ground than their lights could reach. We call them the first ones, Princess Lyra explained as they walked through. The empty halls. They lived here before my people came to this system. We know almost nothing about them, except that they built these places. Jake ran his hand along one of the walls. The stone was smooth and cold, and the symbols seemed to move in the corner of his eye. Why did they disappear? We do not know. Perhaps they went to the stars. Perhaps they died out. Perhaps they became something else entirely. She paused in front of a wall, covered with pictures of strange creatures. Sometimes I wonder if they felt the same things your people feel. If they knew love and joy and sadness. They went deeper into the ruins, following their lights down narrow passages. The walls here showed pictures of the first ones themselves, tall beings with many arms and eyes that seemed to glow, even in the ancient stone. Jake was looking at one of the pictures when he heard a rumbling sound. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the ground shook under their feet. The passage, Princess Lyra said, her voice tight with fear. They ran back the way they had come, but they were too late. A wall of stone and metal blocked the way out. Their shuttle's crew would be looking for them, but it might take hours to dig through the rubble. Jake checked his air meter. They had maybe 4 hours of oxygen left. Princess Lyra sat down on the floor and closed her eyes. Her skin glowed brighter than before, and Jake realized she was scared. Hey, he said, sitting down beside her. It will be okay. They will find us. She opened her eyes and looked at him. In the dim light, they were a deep purple color he had never seen before. I am not supposed to feel fear. My people have trained themselves not to feel such things. But being trapped here makes something inside me want to run and scream. Jake reached out and took her hand. It was warm and soft, with that strange glow under the skin. Fear is normal. It means you want to live. That is not a bad thing. Her hand tightened around his. When I am with you, I feel so many things I do not understand. Sometimes my heart beats faster for no reason. Sometimes I think about you when You are not there. Sometimes I wish I could touch you just to make sure you are real." Jake felt his own heart beating faster. Those are not bad feelings either. They sat in the darkness, holding hands and talking. Princess Lyra told him about life on Ethros, how her people lived in great crystal cities where everything was planned and organized. There was no crime because there was no passion. There was no war because there was no anger. But there was also no art, no music, no stories. "We mate by genetic compatibility," she said. "The computers choose who will have children together based on what traits the offspring will have. No one chooses their partner. No one falls in love. No one even knows what falling in love means." Jake told her about Earth, about families who chose to stay together through good times and bad, about people who died for love, who lived for love, who created beautiful things just to make the person they loved smile. "We are a messy species," he said. "We fight and argue and make mistakes, but we also laugh and cry and dream. We write songs about people we love and paint pictures of places we want to go." Princess Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I think your messides might be what makes you strong." The rescue team found them 6 hours later. They had to use mining equipment to clear the passage, and Jake and Princess Lyra were both unconscious from lack of oxygen when they were pulled out. Jake woke up in the ship's medical bay. Princess Lyra was in the bed next to him, still sleeping. Her skin had lost some of its glow, but she was breathing steadily. Dr. Kevin Chun, the ship's doctor, was checking their vital signs. "You were lucky," he said. "Another hour and you both would have died down there. How is she?" Jake asked. Dr. Chun looked at Princess Lyra with interest. "That is the strange thing?" Her body responded to the low oxygen, exactly like a human's would. "When I scanned her brain, I found something even more interesting." He showed Jake the scan results on his tablet. "See these areas here? They are parts of the brain that control emotion and creativity. In most Zephyrians, these areas are almost inactive. But in her, they are lighting up like a Christmas tree." Jake sat up in bed. "What does that mean?" "I think it means she is changing," Dr. Chun said. "Contact with humans is awakening parts of her brain that have been asleep for generations. She is learning to feel things her people forgot how to feel." When Princess Lyra woke up, the first thing she did was look for Jake. When she saw him sitting in the next bed, her eyes turned that warm gold color, and she smiled. "I dreamed about you while I was sleeping," she said. "Is that normal for humans?" Jake felt his face get warm. "Sometimes." She sat up in her bed and looked out the small window at the stars. "I dreamed we were flying together among the stars, just the two of us. We did not need ships or air or anything else. We were free." Jake wanted to tell her that he had dreamed about her too, that he dreamed about her every night now and thought about her every day, that when she smiled at him, he felt like he could do anything. But he also remembered Captain Rodriguez's warning and the story of Commander Gray and the fact that Princess Lyra was not human and never could be. Instead, he said, dreams can be nice even when they are not real. Princess Lyra looked at him with those changing eyes. "Perhaps dreams are just another way of imagining what could be," she said. "And you told me that imagining things is what makes humans strong." That night, Jake could not sleep. He stood at his window and looked out at the stars, thinking about purple eyes and silver hair, and the way Princess Lyra's hand had felt in his. When they thought they were going to die, he was falling in love with an alien princess, and he did not know what to do about it. The news traveled fast through both ships. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison and Princess Lyra Veltar had been found holding hands in the ruins, unconscious and close to death. Some people said it was romantic. Others said it was dangerous. "Admiral," Patricia Hayes arrived on the Liberty 3 days later. She was a tall woman with gray hair and eyes like steel. Jake had served under her before, and he knew she did not make social visits. She called Jake to the conference room as soon as her shuttle docked. Captain Rodriguez was already there, along with Dr. Chun and Commander Bill Walsh, the mission's political officer. "Sit down, Morrison," Admiral Hayes said without any greeting. Jake sat. "I have read Dr. Chun's reports about the princess," she continued. "Her brain scans show significant changes since she began spending time with you. The Zephyrian High Council is concerned." Jake felt his stomach drop. Concerned about what, Admiral? Commander Walsh leaned forward. He was a thin man with nervous hands that were always moving. "They think you are changing her in ways that could be dangerous to their society. Some of their leaders are calling for her to return home immediately." "She is learning about human culture," Jake said. "That was the point of the cultural exchange, was it?" Admiral Hayes opened a folder and pulled out several photographs. They showed Jake and Princess Lyra walking together, eating together, looking at art together. In every picture, they were standing close, often touching. "These were taken by security cameras throughout the ship," the Admiral said. "Tell me, Morrison, what exactly are you teaching the princess?" Jake looked at the pictures. In them, he could see what others saw: a human man and an alien woman who looked like they were falling in love. "I am teaching her about human emotions and creativity," he said. "She asked me to." Dr. Chun spoke up. "Admiral, if I may, the changes in Princess Lyra's brain are not harmful. In fact, they might be exactly what the Zephyrian people need. Her emotional development could help save their civilization." Admiral Hayes looked at him coldly. "That is not our decision to make, Doctor. Our job is to negotiate trade agreements, not to change alien societies." She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, both the human and Zephyrian ships hung in space like metal islands in an ocean of stars. "I spoke with High Regent Zane Veltar this morning," she said. "He is Princess Lyra's father, and he is not happy. Some members of their High Council want to end the negotiations and leave immediately." Jake felt like the floor was falling out from under him. "What about the princess? What does she want?" "That is the problem," Commander Walsh said. "She says she wants to stay and continue learning about humans. But her uncle, Regent Thane Veltar, believes she has been compromised. He wants her to undergo something called logical cleansing." Dr. Chun made a sharp sound. "That would be devastating. The procedure would remove all the emotional development she has gained. It would make her exactly like she was before, but the neural pathways we have seen developing would be destroyed permanently." Admiral Hayes turned back to Jake. "Here is what is going to happen, Morrison. You will stop spending private time with Princess Lyra. All future cultural exchanges will be supervised by Commander Walsh. We will complete the trade negotiations as quickly as possible and return to Earth." Jake stood up. "Admiral, with respect, you cannot just turn off what has happened between us." "Watch me," she said. "You are relieved of your cultural exchange duties effective immediately. Report to engineering. Chief Martinez needs help with the quantum drive maintenance." Jake wanted to argue, but he knew it would be useless. Admiral Hayes had made up her mind. That evening, Jake was working on drive coils in the engine room when Princess Lyra found him. She looked different. Her usual flowing clothes had been replaced by a simple white robe, and her hair was pulled back severely. Her eyes were a dull gray color he had never seen before. "They told me you have been reassigned," she said. Jake put down his tools. "Princess, I am sorry. I never meant for any of this to cause problems." She moved closer to him. In the harsh light of the engine room, her skin looked pale and tired. "My father spoke to me today," He says I am becoming too human, that I am losing what makes me Zephyrian. What do you think? Jake asked Dot. She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I think I am becoming who I was meant to be. Jake reached out and touched her hand. Her skin was cooler than usual, and the glow was very faint. My Uncle Thing wants me to undergo logical cleansing when we return home, she said. It would remove all the emotions I have learned to feel. I would go back to being the way I was before I met you. The thought made Jake feel sick. You do not have to do that? Do I not? Her eyes flashed with anger, turning red for just a moment. I am a princess of the Zephyrian people. I have duties and responsibilities. My personal feelings cannot matter more than the good of my race. Jake wanted to tell her that her feelings did matter, that love was the most important thing in the universe, that no duty was worth destroying who she had become. But he could see the pain in her eyes, and he knew she was being torn apart by forces beyond her control. What will you do? He asked. I do not know, she said. Then she kissed him. It was soft and quick, just a brush of her lips against his. But Jake felt it like electricity through his entire body. When she pulled away, her eyes were that warm gold color again. I wanted to know what that felt like, she said. Now I understand why humans write so many songs about it. She left him standing in the engine room, his heart pounding and his mind racing. The next morning, everything went wrong. Jake was eating breakfast in the crew mess when alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed, and the voice of the ship's computer announced, all hands to battle stations. We are under attack. Jake ran to the nearest observation window. Outside, he could see ships he did not recognize, sleek black vessels that moved like hunting animals. They were firing some kind of energy weapons at both the Liberty and the Zephyrian ship. Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the ship's communication. System, this is the captain. We are being attacked by what appears to be a Zephyrian military force. All civilian personnel report to designated safe areas immediately. Jake ignored the order and ran toward the bridge. He needed to know what was happening, and he needed to know if Princess Lyra was safe. The bridge was chaos. Officers ran back and forth, shouting orders and status reports. Captain Rodriguez stood in the center of it all, calm as always, even while her ship was being shot at. Captain, what is the situation? Jake asked. She looked at him grimly. The attacking ships are from a Zephyrian faction called the Purists. According to High Regent Veltar, they believe that contact with humans is corrupting their people. They want to destroy both ships and blame it on a human attack. Jake felt cold. Where is Princess Lyra? That is the problem, Rodriguez said. She was on her way to the docking bay when the attack started. The area is sealed off now. We cannot reach her, and we cannot reach the Zephyrian ship. On the main screen, Jake could see the black ships circling like sharks. The Liberty's shields were holding, but they would not last forever. Can we fight back? He asked. The Liberty is not a warship, Rodriguez said. We have defensive systems, but nothing that can match military-grade weapons. Jake watched the battle and thought about Princess Lyra trapped somewhere in the ship. He thought about her eyes changing color when she was scared, and the way she had kissed him in the engine room, and how she might never get the chance to decide for herself what kind of person she wanted to be. He made a decision that would change everything. Captain, I know the ship better than anyone except the engineering crew. Let me try to reach the docking bay. If I can get to Princess Lyra, maybe she can contact the Purists. Maybe she can stop this. Rodriguez looked at him for a long moment. Outside, another blast shook the ship. Go, she said. But be careful, Jake. If we lose you too, this whole mission will have been for nothing. Jake ran through the corridors of the Liberty while the ship shook around him. He could hear metal groaning and sparks flying from damaged systems. The lights flickered on and off, casting strange shadows on the walls. He was going to find Princess Lyra, and together they were going to stop this war before it could destroy both their peoples, even if it killed them both. Jake ran through corridors filled with smoke and sparks. The Liberty shook with each hit from the Purist ships, and he could hear metal bending under the strain. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls, making everything look like it was. Covered in blood, the route to the docking bay was blocked by a collapsed ceiling. Jake had to crawl through maintenance tunnels, pulling himself along pipes that were hot enough to burn his hands. He could hear the battle raging outside, the sharp crack of energy weapons and the deep rumble of explosions. When he finally reached the docking bay, he found Princess Lyra huddled behind a cargo container. Her white robe was torn and dirty, and her silver hair hung loose around her face. But her eyes lit up with that warm gold color when she saw him. "Jake," she said, and threw her arms around him. "I thought you were dead." He held her tight, breathing in the flower scent of her hair. "I thought I lost you too," he said. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head. "The Purists tried to board through this bay, but the blast doors sealed them out. I have been trapped here for 3 hours." Another explosion shook the ship, closer this time. Through the transparent dome above them, Jake could see the black Purist ships firing at both human and Zephyrian vessels. "Can you contact them?" Jake asked. "Can you make them stop?" Princess Lyra's eyes turned dark blue. "General Crix Maldor leads the Purists. He was my combat instructor when I was young. He believes that emotion is a disease that will destroy our people." She looked at Jake with sadness. "He especially hates what I have become." Jake took her hands in his. They were cold and shaking. "What you have become is beautiful," he said. "You are more alive now than you were when I first met you." She smiled, but it was a sad smile. "My father sent me a message before the attack began. The High Council has voted. When we return home, I must undergo logical cleansing, or I will be exiled from Zephyrian space forever." Jake felt like someone had hit him in the chest. "They cannot do that to you." "They can," she said, "and perhaps they should. Look what my emotions have caused. People are dying because I learned to feel love. People are dying because some of your people are afraid of change," Jake said firmly. "That is not your fault." Princess Lyra stood up and walked to the observation window. Outside, one of the Zephyrian escort ships was on fire, spinning slowly as it died. "I have been thinking about what you taught me," she said, without turning around, "about choice and love and what it means to be free. My people do not choose who they mate with. They do not choose what work they do. They do not choose anything that matters." Jake moved to stand beside her. "What are you saying?" She turned to look at him, and her eyes were brighter than he had ever seen them. "I am saying that if I must choose between being Zephyrian and being free, I choose freedom." Before Jake could respond, the lights went out. Emergency power kicked. And a moment later, bathing everything in red light, the ship's communication system crackled to life. "This is General Crix Maldor of the Zephyrian Purity Fleet," a harsh voice said. "Surrender the corrupted princess, and we will allow the human ship to leave unharmed. You have 5 minutes to comply." Princess Lyra straightened her shoulders. "I will not let innocent people die because of me," she said. "I will go to them." "No," Jake said, grabbing her arm. "They will kill you." "They will not kill me," she said. "They will make me undergo logical cleansing immediately, using their ship's medical bay. I will become the emotionless princess they want, and everyone else will be safe." Jake felt desperation rise in his throat. "Lyra, please. There has to be another way." She touched his face with her hand. Her skin was warm again, glowing with soft light. You have given me the greatest gift anyone could give. You taught me how to feel. Even if they take that away from me tomorrow, I will always know that once, for a little while, I was truly alive. Jake looked into her changing eyes and saw his own heart breaking, reflected there. I wish I could marry her, he whispered, not really meaning to say it out loud. Princess Lyra went very still. What did you say? Jake felt his face burn red. I'm sorry. I did not mean to say that. I know it is impossible. I know you are a princess, and I am just a human officer, and our peoples are too different, and... Yes, she said quietly. Jake stopped talking. What? Yes, she said again, louder this time. Her eyes were shining like stars. Yes, I will marry you. Jake stared at her. Lyra, you cannot mean that. Marriage is not just words. It is a life. Together. It is choosing to stay with someone through everything good and bad. It is ... It is love, she finished. And I love you, Jake Morrison. I love the way you smile when you are happy. I love how you try to explain things I do not understand. I love that you see beauty in things that do not exist and possibility. In things that seem impossible. Her voice got stronger. I love you enough to give up everything I have ever known. Jake felt tears in his eyes. I love you too, he said. But loving each other and being able to be together are different things. Are they? She asked. You humans fight for the things you love. You die for them. You write songs about them and paint pictures of them and tell stories about them for hundreds of years. But when someone tells you that love is impossible, you just give up? Before Jake could answer, the docking bay doors exploded inward. Smoke and fire filled the air, and through it came figures in black armor carrying weapons that glowed with deadly energy. General Crix Maldor himself led them. He was tall and thin, with skin so pale it was almost white and eyes like chips of ice. His armor was decorated with symbols that Jake did not recognize, but that made Princess Lyra take a step backward. Princess Lyra Veltar, he said in a voice, like breaking glass. You will come with us now? I will not, she said, moving to stand beside Jake. General Maldor raised his weapon. You have been infected with human emotion sickness. You are no longer capable of making rational decisions. We will take you by force, if necessary. Jake stepped in front of Princess Lyra. You will have to go through me first. The general looked at him with contempt. One human cannot stop us. Maybe not, Jake said, but I can try. What happened next surprised everyone, including Jake. Princess Lyra moved past him, not away from the purists, but toward them. But instead of surrendering, she began to speak in the Zephyrian language, her voice rising and falling in patterns that sounded like music. The purist soldiers stopped moving. Some of them lowered their weapons. Jake saw confusion on their faces, and something else, something that looked almost like longing. General Maldor shouted something harsh in Zephyrian, but Princess Lyra kept speaking. Her voice grew stronger, and her skin began to glow brighter than Jake had ever seen it. What is she doing? Jake asked Dr. Chun, who had arrived with a security team. Dr. Chun was scanning Princess Lai. The war ended as quickly as it had begun. General Maldor had fled back to his ship alone, leaving behind soldiers who no longer wanted to fight. The purist fleet scattered when their troops refused to follow orders, and within hours, the space around Ethros was peaceful again. High Regent Zane Veltar came aboard the Liberty himself to see what had happened to his daughter. He was a tall man with silver skin and hair like starlight, but his eyes were the same changeable color as Princess Lyra's. When he saw her, those eyes went through a dozen different shades before settling on a worried blue. Daughter, he said, in careful English. I felt your emotional broadcast across space. The entire High Council felt it. What have you done? Princess Lyra stood beside Jake, her hand in his. She looked like a different person from the one who had first stepped aboard the Liberty weeks ago. Her skin glowed brighter, her hair moved, like it was alive, and her eyes stayed that warm gold color most of the time now. "I have become who I was meant to be," she said, "and I have shown others that they can become themselves too." The High Regent looked at Jake with something that might have been curiosity. "And you, human, you are the one who taught my daughter these emotions." Jake straightened his shoulders. "I am, Your Highness, and I am in love with her." He expected anger or demands or threats. Instead, the High Regent smiled. It was a strange expression on his logical face, like he was remembering how to do it. "Love," he said, testing the word. When Lyra broadcast her emotions, every Zephyrian in the system felt it. Do you know what happened then? Jake shook his head. For the first time in 300 years, spontaneous art appeared in our cities. Citizens began singing songs they had never heard before. Children started playing games that had no logical purpose except joy. The High Regent's eyes turned the same gold as his daughter's. "You may have saved our entire civilization." Admiral Hayes, who had been listening to this conversation with growing amazement, stepped forward. "Your Highness, are you saying that the Zephyrian High Council approves of this relationship?" "More than approves," the High Regent said. "We desperately need what the humans can teach us. And my daughter has proven that our peoples can learn from each other in ways we never imagined." Dr. Chun had been studying readings from his scanner during the entire conversation. Now he looked up with excitement. "Your Highness, I have been monitoring the brain activity of every Zephyrian on both ships. The emotional awakening is spreading. It appears to be a natural part of your evolution that was suppressed generations ago." The High Regent nodded slowly. "Our ancient texts speak of a time when our people felt as humans do. We called it the Age of Chaos because emotions led to conflict and unpredictability. Our ancestors chose logic over feeling, order over passion. But perhaps we chose wrongly." Princess Lyra squeezed Jake's hand. "Father, Jake has asked me to marry him. I have said yes." The High Regent looked at them both for a long moment. "Marriage is a human concept we do not understand." "It is a promise," Jake said. "A promise to love each other and take care of each other for the rest of our lives. To share happiness and sadness, good times and bad times. To choose each other every day, even when it is difficult. And you would make this promise to my daughter, even though she is not human?" Jake looked at Princess Lyra, at her glowing skin and changing eyes and silver hair that moved like water. "Especially because she is not human," he said. "She is the most amazing person I have ever met. I would be honored to spend my life with her." The High Regent was quiet for a very long time. When he spoke again, his voice was soft. "And you have my blessing. But I have a request to make of you both." Princess Lyra tilted her head. "What kind of request, Father?" "Our people are dying, not in body, but in spirit. We have forgotten how to dream, how to create, how to truly live. If you marry this human, I want you to help establish something new, a place where humans and Zephyrians can live together and learn from each other." Admiral Hayes looked interested. "What kind of place?" "A colony," the High Regent said. "A world where both our peoples can build something that has never existed before. A society that combines human creativity with Zephyrian logic, human emotion with Zephyrian knowledge." Jake felt excitement building in his chest. "That sounds incredible." "It would not be easy," the High Regent warned. "You would be pioneers, building a new kind of civilization from nothing. There would be mistakes and failures and problems no one has ever faced before." Princess Lyra's eyes sparkled. "It sounds perfect," she said. Captain Rodriguez, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. Admiral, this could be exactly what both our peoples need. A chance to grow together instead of just trading with each other. Admiral Hayes considered. The Earth Council would have to approve such a colony. And we would need volunteers, people willing to leave their home worlds to try something completely new. I volunteer, said Dr. Chon immediately. This is the most important scientific opportunity in human history. And I volunteer too, said Commander Walsh. Someone will need to help write the laws for a society that has never existed before. One by one, other crew members volunteered. Within an hour, nearly half the human crew had agreed to join the colony. When the High Regent contacted the Zephyrian ship, dozens of his people volunteered as well. The wedding took place 3 weeks later, on a planet called Nova Terra, that both governments had agreed to give to the new colony. It was a beautiful world with purple skies and silver seas, covered in forests that glowed with their own light. Jake wore his dress uniform, the blue fabric bright against the alien landscape. Princess Lyra wore a gown that seemed to be made of captured starlight, flowing and changing color as she moved. The ceremony combined human and Zephyrian traditions. Captain Rodriguez performed the human part, speaking about love and commitment, and the choice to build a life together. High Regent Veltar performed the Zephyrian part, which involved sharing memories and promising to help each other grow. When Jake said, "I do," his voice carried across the gathered crowd of humans and Zephyrians who had come to witness this historic moment. When Princess Lyra said, "I do," her words were in both English and Zephyrian, and her emotional resonance made every person there feel the depth of her joy. They kissed as husband and wife while 2 suns set behind them, painting the purple sky in shades of gold and red and orange. In the audience, Jake saw humans and Zephyrians standing together, some crying happy tears, others glowing with shared emotion. 5 years later, the colony of Nova Terra was home to 10,000 people from both species. The city they built was unlike anything that had existed before. Crystal spires that sang in the wind, gardens that bloomed with flowers from 2 different worlds, schools where human children and young Zephyrians learned together. Jake and Lyra had 2 children now, a boy named Alex, who had his mother's glowing skin and his father's brown eyes, and a girl named Luna, whose hair changed color with her emotions, just like her mother's eyes had. They were the first human Zephyrian children ever born, and scientists from across the galaxy came to study how perfectly their 2 species, genetics combined. The children could feel emotions as deeply as any human, but they could also think with the clear logic of Zephyrians. They were stronger, smarter, and more creative than either parent species alone. Jake stood on the balcony of their home, watching the children play in the garden below. Lyra came up behind him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Giving up your career in the Earth Navy to build a colony with an alien princess?" Jake leaned back against her warmth. "Every single day," he said seriously. Lyra stiffened. "Really?" Jake turned in her arms and smiled. "I regret that it took me so long to tell you I loved you. I regret that we wasted weeks being afraid of what other people would think. I regret every moment we could have been together, but were not." Lyra's eyes turned that warm gold color that still made his heart skip after all these years. "And do you regret marrying me?" "Never," Jake said, and kissed his wife under the purple sky of their new world. "Marrying you was the best decision I ever made." In the distance, they could hear their children laughing as they played with friends, who were human and Zephyrian, and the wonderful mixture of both. It was the sound of the future being born, the sound of 2 species learning that love was stronger than fear, and that the best things in the universe happened when different people chose to build something beautiful together. The colony grew and prospered, and eventually there were dozens of worlds where humans and Zephyrians lived as one people. Jake and Lyra became legends, the couple whose love had bridged the gap between the stars and created something entirely new. But that night, they were just a husband and wife watching their children play, grateful for the day when a lonely human officer had whispered his impossible wish, and an alien princess had said yes.